I'm like, okay, we know he's a solid player, what we're going to get out of him, but who's going to be the next one? And when I heard Draded, I'm like, this has potential. This has a very high ceiling on what this team can achieve with him on that back line. The problem is we don't know what that ceiling is yet. So far, the last few games, so good. But it's not just this week. It's what do we eventually get out of these players.
Yeah, I think the biggest deal for me from Draded was in that last game, seeing that one kill happen and shoring up his play. Let's see if Octalysis now can close out the series with a 3-1 lead as they take us to Infernal Shrines for Game 4.
Infernal Shrines, the second best battleground for LFM previously, but Octalysis is no slouch on this one. Very good draft, and I think for LFM, if they're looking to kind of solidify things, get back into this, I think they need a little bit beefier front line, something that can hold ground, allowing something like a Jaina and Phoenix to do work. I think that a Varian and a Thrall, you could see they would just run past those players, get to the back line, and just dominate. I think right now LFM, they're suffering a little bit from that, so look for them to change up the draft just a little bit. The last time we saw Fury get dominated by Garrosh, he went into the next game, he's like, hold on a second, let me show you how it's done.
I did like Swab's Thrall a lot. I think he's playing really well, but you're right, that is a malleable front line that someone like a Tracer can take advantage of. We've had a lot of Genji bans and Malfurion, though Malfurion was finally let through in the last game. LFM choosing to change things up and ban Blaze.
Yeah, the Blaze ban, it made sense for what they were trying to do, and it keeps people from hopping in a bunker, thwarting a lot of the damage, including the salvo. I wouldn't be opposed to them just picking the Blaze this go around, but as you said, the Genji priority, things of that nature, have definitely been prominent in this. It doesn't necessarily have the same impact on Infernal Shrines, but the Phoenix obviously very strong here. We'll see how they try and play around that. Sonya is also another hero we see rise in priority on this battleground.
There's also not been a single Hanzo this game, and though we didn't see the explosive arrows build on this map yesterday, it is still something that can give a lot of control over the skeletal defenders or snipe them away from your opponents. Also, Alex Straza continues to be a fan favorite or team favorite.
Buds is one, right?
Yes. I think Buds in general, he likes meta supports, but he also has his niche favorites. That's how I classify Buds, but he can play anything. He has, just like Collusion, turned into such a phenomenal support.
Former tank player. I used to think he was so good at tank. And then all of a sudden he's going support. I'm like, wow, that's so different. Buds went from range to support. Collusion,
and he played a lot of Tyrande, so...
Dude, my favorite part was when we got to the later part of Phase 2 when it was like, all right, let's have a little bit of fun. Collusion played a Stitches on Volskaya, and he just was landing hooks left and right. And I'm like, that's the Collusion I remember.
The thing I always think of is when he told me, of course, when I switch over to support, that's when Diablo comes back into the meta. He loved Diablo.
He used to, he was back on the day. I'm trying to remember the different names that they went through, but he was very much an ETC player back in the day. A lot of people were, but he was pretty good at it. Either way, we do get the Genji ban, this time on the side of Octalysis going against LFM. Sonya, as we talked about, has high priority, and first pick Sonya, that's how high.
All right. That happened yesterday on Infernal Shrines too. Especially with the Blaze ban, LFM is staking their claim on that solo lane. But Goku has his pick of a lot of different heroes, so we'll see what he wants to bring there. I do believe Goku is willing to switch over into a Leoric sometimes when he wants to, and having that kind of clear might be something that Octalysis wants.
Leo was such a staple in the early part of this year for North America, and then everybody realized he wasn't as good as some of the other heroes, and he kind of fell out. He comes back at times, but I feel it's very situational.
You know who's a Goku hero that I forgot about, though it's not on this map.
All right.
I mean, yeah. And Artanis, like everything, but who I was thinking of was Ragnaros.
Ooh, it's been a while since we've had some Ragnaros.
It's probably going to be a little bit longer.
Probably. Johanna, we saw, made it to the second ban, ended up getting banned out. Malthael apparently is another Goku hero. But Johanna, where does Johanna actually come into play here? And this is another battleground, much like Tomb of the Spider Queen, where I feel her effectiveness definitely goes up. This is a matter of where other people see that lies, because Garrosh isn't as effective on this battleground, a little bit harder to get tosses, especially when there's so much around you. You really have to be in perfect positioning.
Really like those two pickups. Both have an option for heal reduction, which can be problematic for Sonya. Also, it's a pretty old school counter to pick Malthael against the Sonya, and it is a Goku hero that we've seen before. On a Pale Horse lets him try to make those dual lane rotations when his team's on the Shrine. But with the Malfurion pickup, we're not going to see Alexstrasza for Buds, but maybe the Aware will want to play the Dragon Queen.
Malthael, just to me, he's so vulnerable nowadays, considering everything else that's out there. Deckard's going to be there. We are going to get the Hanzo again this go-round. See how that plays out. Malthael, again, could potentially go last rights. The counter generally towards something of the nature of a Garrosh and things like that to do that percentage-based damage.
I don't want a Tassadar for LFM, along with what they have already. There hasn't been too much Tassadar play. But
Phoenix has to come in. I feel if you're Octalysis, you're either going Mage. I think Phoenix does really well. Obviously, the AoE splash on this and getting value out of that level 1 talent as well. But Johanna, I feel it's going to be like a Johanna Phoenix. You got to get one or the other. And I feel LFM, they targeted Johanna last game. Curious if they're going to do it again this game, unless Octalysis bans it out, if they have something in mind here.
What do you think Octalysis is considering for their ban? A tank? Do they ban? Wasn't it Octalysis who banned Johanna last time? We were considering that? The Fury ban.
Take away the playmaker.
I think that's fair. When Fury was playing ETC, they looked very scary.
It's a much different feel when you have that constant threat. You're not getting the right type of lockdown, especially if you can stay a while and listen. Stay a while and listen to a dance party, I guess, if you want to.
And Garrosh is less appealing because Last Rites is annoying for a Garrosh, so there's already less that LFM would like for their tank, and then Octalysis is going to get first choice in their next 2 picks.
It's just Prismat. It's like I'm dialing back all the different heroes that we've seen Prismat on over time because he's been on that melee role. Yeah, so it's one of those things that you just kind of have to figure it out. It's rediscovering where Prismat, where he feels he could be the strongest, where Octalysis and Justin obviously drafting. We do get the Tassadar this time, except it's going to be on the side of Octalysis. If Phoenix comes in down the road, I wouldn't be surprised, but we get some Dibbles action.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, especially we've seen a lot of the Earthquake Purification salvo, but Lightning Breath also gives slows to enable the increased damage from Purification salvo, and now you got to charge into a wall.
That is a thing. That is a thing. So now for LFM, they still need somebody on the front line. Johanna is available to them, does do well against Diablo, but knowing Fury, he might try something a little bit more aggressive. Garrosh is still available, but as you alluded to, the Malthael thwarts that decision-making a little bit differently, but we also need either a secondary damage dealer. Now Tassadar, as you were proposing for LFM, it's not available.
We've seen Figgy play Jaina, mainly Jaina, right?
There was some Jaina action.
I think he also played a Genji game. This is the fun part, is figuring out what everyone on their new roles is comfortable playing, what their favorites are, what the trends are for teams. They're gonna take the Phoenix.
The Stitches pick though.
When in doubt.
Hook them out.
Oh yeah.
I don't know where you're hooking them in this game though. I feel like it's more just like Stitches standing on the front line. Okay, so Tassadar doesn't necessarily need somebody to support. It generally helps, but this is a battleground where it's a little bit more okay. The fact that, the Tassadar was picked up with the Diablo, it handles potentially some burst damage, but is there something you want to pair it with? We saw Vala for No Tomorrow yesterday. When you start to look at viable auto attack heroes, there's not a lot left. I don't necessarily advocate a lot for Vala at this point.
Yeah, if the hope was Phoenix, who, by the way, combos nicely with Tassadar because Tassadar's shield is taken for shield capacitor. That's not happening. I'm actually a little bit... Are you surprised not to see Medivh instead of Phoenix for LFM? It does feel like it was a nice steal for them. Oh, I'll just go back to Gul'dan. What's happening over there?
I'm looking at Octalysis' draft, and I'm right back to the point where I was before we even started today, as Octalysis tries to do everything. They're trying to do everything in one series. Like, we've literally seen everything, it seems like. I don't always support if you spread yourself too thin and you practice all these different things, you don't necessarily hone your skills into one specific strategy, you do it in several. So if you split your time, you're not always going to be the best in one specific strategy. And I think generally when we've seen teams at the top of their region or at the top of tournaments, they generally have one play style with back pocket strategies that come out. This feels like back pocket strategies like the entire time.
They're back pocket strategies they play all the time. Are they like front pocket strategies?
I mean, I guess it's just pocket strategies, but today we're making them back pockets. I don't know why. You reach into your back pocket to get a strategy.
Well, they're not as like readily accessible, right? But you know what's there at all times.
Front
like,
pockets
that's where
are
my
too
wallet
easy
is.
to go to.
Right, exactly. And somebody might steal it away. Like, that's a lot easier for people to just
what
like,
I meant
steal.
this entire time.
I got your back. That's my job. Do you have a favorite comp out of these two?
I like what LFM is doing. I don't necessarily like the stitches. It just doesn't bring the same type of control that I would like to see from LFM. Because right now they're lacking. They get a root from Deckard, potential spear, which is hard to land in the middle of things. But outside of that, it's mostly just slows. And I think that's very difficult against the Diablo.
Yeah, Sapphire helped with that. Ooh, my. We saw Dampen Magic. We've seen Heavy Slam. And now, hungry for more. We're looking to make a tank Stitches here.
Who was it earlier in the series? It was in our last series of the day. We saw a full tank. I might have been Swartbelly? It was a full tank. It was hungry for more, amplified healing, and then the Devourer at level 7, and Fleabag at 13 to get the cooldown reduction on that. The rest of the team didn't really get any value because I think they had died before level 16.
Well,
but it always intrigues me.
For LFM, hopefully that is not the case, because they need this win to take it back to Game 5. We're sitting on a pale horse again for Goku, so that he can make those rotations around. Especially during shrine phases, which we're going to see the first shrine be at the top lane.
Yeah, not any crazy plays around the camps. Generally, there's a lot of contention around the bottom camp in the early game, as we can already see the rotation down. It's going to be scouted out by droplets. And we actually have a gank attempt potentially going up top. I think Malthael's going to be okay, so our attention will be down here. Hook's going to miss. Goku, as long as you're on that, as you said, on a pale horse, a lot easier to dodge skill shots when you're moving around at max speed.
Yeah, that extra 20% movement speed's pretty handy. That's why we're seeing him stay mounted up when people go off map, because he's been around this block a couple times. He knows that he is very like to be the gank target. And either way, he stays mounted up. The rest of the team of Octalysis had grouped toward the bottom to get that camp. Uh-oh, this time though.
Yeah, you're not getting out of this one, and he avoided it the first time. The rest of his team got double camps, which is a really good play for their team, but now you're unable to push with it with the same amount of value. It's going to be cleared up in the bottom by Hanzo. Mid's going to be cleared up because you can no longer push with this, because you got to catch that top lane soak. So I feel a missed opportunity there, a little bit of an overplay. And it's one that you have to question, is it worth it? I mean, are you getting value pushing that lane out?
Well, one of the difficulties for Team Octalysis is that they had to send Tassadar up toward the top to handle that lane while Malthael was respawning. But he still was able to clear that out pretty quickly. It just means that they couldn't be doing as much with that mid bot as Team Octalysis was hoping with such good wave clear heroes as Gul'dan and Tassadar. But having them up there and just rotating up gives them their Shaman camp. LFM are working on that too. Shaman camp, when it's the top shrine, is a little bit different. You're not hoping to get a lot of push out of that, but you are hoping that you can get control over the lane, which limits the amount of ways that your opponents can try to dive in on you on the Shrine.
Yeah, it's literally just a matter of that half-point mark, it's neutral, right there where Stitches is standing. But if you start to push that lane out, your positioning becomes much stiffer. You can push forward into that, and controlling the Shrine, especially the top Shrine. That's the main thing. It's the top Shrine that has the value. If you can get to that, you can look at the position of the team that has that advantage. They will move forward more aggressively than the other team. It's something that it definitely stands out. It's oftentimes missed, but I'm glad you called that out.
This is really good for LFM because they not only cleared out faster, the hook lands and forces dimensional shift. They're going to have the better setup in this wave, and they're keeping up with Team Octalysis on the Shrine, and Malthael has not come up. He wanted to push out the bottom lane and then also be able to push mid. He even checked to make sure that nobody from LFM was on the Khazra, but this means that Octalysis, they have to get aggressive if they have any hope of taking back this Shrine, because they need to get LFM off long enough from the Shrine so that they can start to climb back in on these skeletal defenders.
Yeah, this is a mountain to overcome, but they're starting to as it's 29-21. Diablo going in, roots go down, he gets flipped out. Swab's going to use that whirlwind, get that healing, and now we see Goku trying to trade out there, seeing if he can fight this off. And Octalysis has now taken the lead in this, and it looks like they might be able to complete this, but LFM, they're still trying to find their way in, but Octalysis gonna confirm Punisher #1.
They do get it. It was close. Slam into the middle of the Shrine just as the Punisher came out is not how LFM were hoping to defend versus this Punisher. Now no Sonya to go split soak alongside the Malthael of Team Octalysis. Octalysis looking to break down the small wall, seeing if Justin can dive in along with this Punisher, but it's being handled really well by LFM.
Yeah, just giving up the wall, and as has been the theme that we've talked about this weekend, the experience difference. That's why it's not the same amount of value. And we also see a different build here at level 7. It's something I've always wondered about. Last Bite, if an enemy dies within 3 seconds of you using your Devour, its cooldown is reduced by 12 seconds. That's on a 20-second cooldown, which is pretty significant.
Do you know what that build used to be used for? Infernal Shrines with Wretchling. And you were like a Shrine dominator. They had to nerf this talent because the cooldown reduction was so severe. It was like little gross bile-lings running around everywhere. It's terrifying.
I think they're kind of cute. You ever see the way they move?
Agree to disagree. Touch of Death, though, that is what I thought we might see. It's not going to be Strangling Vines. We're going to keep with the Vengeful Roots for Malfurion, but having Touch of Death should be able to see if they can get the reduced healing, especially because we're seeing that same build that Kira used with the Whirlwinds, moving into Life Funnel to increase the healing from Whirlwind, 35%, and since it's tripled versus heroes, you can get a lot done from that. So we'll see how that interplay can work, if Goku can use that in a way so that they can last rights and maybe just bring her down quickly.
You know, one of the fun things we see from Vengeful Roots, yes, you get a little bit of bonus damage, but a lot of times teams are using this to siege up in areas. You just simply spawn the little tree there, and it soaks up shots.
Almost and hooks.
And hooks. So there's a lot of just utility out of it to be able to siege up. It takes a couple of fort shots even. It has quite a bit of health, almost too much at times.
I talked about the heal reduction for Octalysis. LFM also has it with the Emerald. Now hitting 10. Let's see what the choice is going to be for Diablo, for Tassadar, and I mean Malfurion too. I'm curious about Malthael if there's any world we get tormented, but no, it's going to be continued last rites. Goku needs to be cautious here.
Fury continues to hop in that pocket and see if he can get that heal out or the hook out. And this time,
pockets.
That's a pocket, an area. What would you call it? A nook?
Alcove.
What the, how's that different?
Thank you, Brosidon.
There it is. The debate rages on. Hashtag
Alcove
pocket.
or hashtag pocket.
Or
Make sure to
hashtag
hashtag HGC while you're at it. Is it going to be Bile Salvo? Surely. But then Bile is going to wake up a lot of people from stay a while and listen. Okay, so we've got a Putrid Bile Purification Salvo. That should give the slows to get maximum efficacy out of Purification Salvo. I'm ready for this fight.
Is his belly a pocket?
Is he a kangaroo? If he took Gorge, yes.
speaking of thwarting the hook, minion spawned right as that went out, so unable to get that. Team Octalysis getting the early start this go around. Camps up at the top will cancel each other out over time, but the fight will rage on here. Wait for the big heroics to come out for this fight to really open up. I feel this one is where the game is really going to shift. As you can see, Draded trying to get vision. There's going to be a hook on a Prismat. There's going to be the Tranquility in response, as well as the Dragon Arrow. Several members locked down, but the Aware taking quite a bit of damage, Gilly.
Yeah, he had to stay a while and listen, but with all of the damage out, a lot of people were woken up from that, but still the Purification Salvo did its job, getting 2 kills for the 1, taking out Sonya from LFM. This momentarily causes Octalysis to back off, though they still have Prismaticism and can still try to shell out his Spell Flames on this shrine and get the Skeletal Defenders. Now Justin starting to go back in. Prismaticism, Rooted Fury after him. Droplets there too with the damage. Justin moves in, trying to get the clear, and with the healing that he gets from his fire, he is making it work here as Octalysis still claims that Punisher.
They are not done yet. The healing from Deckard should be enough here. Fury starting to walk away, but Octalysis holding strong in there. Definitely a moment, a little scary moment for Prismat as we saw him get rooted in there. And speaking of rooted, Fury's going to be flipped back. That's going to force out Putrid Bile. Prismat, Lightning Breath not able to get there. Prismat sitting on 20 stacks, only halfway there towards completing his Spell Flames quest. Still quite a bit of work to do. We didn't get to see it so much in game number 1, but post 16, as you said, the rampant Hell Flames, every time you hit, you get more damage, and it's a hero. So if you hit multiple heroes, it's multiple stacks. Stacks up 5 times. Does a significant amount of damage, so if he does complete that, Prismat could become a monster in the late game.
So can Diablo. I wondered if this was going to happen. Devastating charge. This was changed slightly. The initial extra damage that you get from the terrain collision is nerfed, but still does some damage, and it still stacks up, and it stacks up to higher than where it was before. So we'll see Justin trying to stack that up. It's really easy to do. That's why you always saw Diablo on Infernal Shrines, or often saw him, is because you get a lot of chances to hit those stuns. And we may see him pick up Domination still at 16 instead of moving into the damage reduction on his Fire Stomp, just because he's trying to get max stacks from that.
Yeah, we actually saw that. We saw a lot of change to the Diablo build, but Breeze in particular was like, hey, wait a minute, this is still a thing. We saw that at the midseason brawl, and it paid dividends. So we'll see if Justin can get the same amount of value here. So after a couple of Punishers, the damage done, Team Octalysis finds himself 1 level up. It's an opportunity for them to try and move forward. If they can get 16 before the next Shrine phase, that would be good, but I imagine they'll still be fighting elsewhere.
Octalysis is getting a little bit aggressive. Oh, droplets. Oh, droplets.
I think his agility got interrupted right as the charge went out, because I feel that would have been used otherwise.
Yeah. Yeah, trying to jump over the wall from the side from that, because he was kind of on a weird side. Unfortunate loss there, and you could see the scouting arrow going out. It's just a little bit too late to show where Octalysis' position was. This gives just enough of a window and opening for Octalysis to start sieging down this fort. Top lane, though, that's where the next Shrine's going to be, so that will be likely the focus for Octalysis if they can try to get 16, get another pick to get that, and then take that down so they can get more out of that Punisher. 16 is a lot more likely now, especially after that pick, getting them a little bit more experience, and it's also giving them the control to push forward here. So definitely an advantage for them. We do see Fleabag. Hold on a second. We've got Dragon Arrow going out. Putrid Bile. We see the Lightning Breath in return. Goku somehow survives, getting hooked back in. Salvo coming out. That's going to try and do some damage, but Fury last rites, that's going to be the kill shot. Justin should go down here, but has enough souls that he comes back. He'll just come back weaker. Goku takes out Stay a While and Listen too late to save the life of Sonya, but may give them a kill. Oh, the scatter arrow missed, not hitting Goku. Goku lived. He saw the Scroll of Sealing drop underneath him, used Inevitable in to get to the other side of Fury, and then could last rites to bring Fury down. It's one of the great things about someone who's trying to build up that health pool with Hungry for More is you still get that same amount of percentage damage, 50% of your missing health. Now Octalysis, Goku is keeping the chase going since they have Justin back in action. They're just taking away all sorts of control from LFM, so they're taking this camp. They'll have this fort starting to get peppered down before they even get the Punishers. The Shrine's activating right now. And with 16 tier advantage, this is an opportunity for Octalysis to open this game up. They'll be able to move towards the keep wall
And then it's just a matter of what more can they do beyond that. LFM responding in kind, understanding that they need to get experience back elsewhere. But again, this is the comeback mechanic that is nowhere near the same with the nerf on those fort walls. And Octalysis is going to understand they have a significant advantage. They'll push forward. This is the general response, but that experience that you expect to get back from LFM, it's not going to be there. This is actually going to be much worse in the long run here for LFM.
It is, but it's what LFM has to do to get 16 to defend versus this. It's just that now there's no wall to bait over. You'll still try to bait the leap into a good position so that you can clear as fast as possible, but when you are against a Diablo, it's not Diablo with force wall behind, but it's still a Diablo. You have to be very cautious about where you bait this Punisher now, because he has been stacking up that devastating charge. He has domination too, so he has a lot more playmaking ability, and behind this massacre or mortality being taken by the Malthael gives a lot more percent damage, so they need to watch out and who's going to bait this if it's Fury. He's got Stone Skin, he's got Fleabag. We'll see if he can make it out of that alive.
Well, he's got a higher health pool. He's one globe away from getting that full 900 health off of that, which, you know, you get 30% of your maximum health as a shield. And for Stitches, that's a pretty significant margin. We'll see if he can bait that over. There's going to be the jump. See if we get the follow-up. They do get the bait. See if they can get it all the way over to the mid keep. They do not. The hook goes out. That's going to miss. Putrid Bile. I thought I might have heard it.
It was a good spot initially. Lightning Breath barely touches Fury. There's going to be the Stay a While and Listen and the Bile 2 with the Purification salvo. But unfortunately, Phoenix had to move back, and that did not go off. Keep down, Octalysis looks for more.
They've got to bait this Punisher over because this might be the beginning of the end. They do get it baited, but this might be too little too late. Shields have fallen. Several members of Octalysis on the core. If the shields are down, Swab super low, trying to get in there. Droplets, he's under assault, but Swabs, he's spinning to win. Right now, they're holding off. Octalysis backing up just a little bit. Looking to reset here, Killy.
Oh, Sonya going down. 3 kills in the blink of an eye. Octalysis get the kills. They are fairly low. They have to approach this carefully, trying to clear out the minions with that Tassadar. But the siege for them, Archon was already used. Malthael can't put Reaper's Mark on the core, so they're relying on that Hellfire build from Gul'dan to be able to take this out. They're doing the slow siege. They, of course, can use the Psionic Echo too. Finally, they get on the core with the Lightning Breath 2, and Octalysis will finish out Octalysis. Octalysis finishes up the series.
There was a moment of like, wait a minute. Boy, that game number 1 woke this team up. Because game number 1 for them did not look good, and LFM looked fantastic. Game number 2, we had the Valeera Abathur composition, kind of disrupted things a little bit, but since that moment, something about this team, they just turned it up, and things looked very good the last 2 games.
Yeah, I think you can also chalk up game 1 somewhat to draft, though I'll be interested to hear Octalysis' viewpoint on where they think that game 1 might have went wrong. Maybe they feel like it was something else, maybe falling too far behind in some certain area. There was a very early Dragon Knight that seemed to be almost, it was surprising to us as much as to Octalysis, so that also could have been it. But either way, getting a 3-1 win here for Octalysis. They've had a lot of hope for this roster, and it's nice to see them be able to put that into action.
I mean, we heard in the interview, Justine said, expect a 3-0. They still got 3, but there's a 1 on the other side. And I think if you're LFM, you can look at this, and it's a clear learning experience. I mean, obviously, the draft on Tomb maybe a little bit too squishy for their liking. We saw Varian, we saw Stitches, we saw different compositions coming out. Fury obviously looked good on ETC, a hero we know him to look good on. So there are moments that they can build around. I think here, Droplets, there was nothing that really stood out to me. It's like, wait a minute, this is clearly somebody new here. I think he fit his role well, and I think there's going to be clear growing pains. And I look for this team to at least come back, upset a few people, surprise a few people, and maybe climb the ranks.
Yeah, I think there were some positioning things to work on, but the important thing for LFM is that there are clear things that they can work on and re-examine, and with that, be that drafting or just making sure that they're going through the replays versus Octalysis too. Octalysis is, as they've shown, a very aggressive opponent, a very punishing opponent. So if anything's out of line, even a toe is out of line, they're going to be there to try to punish. And LFM did a lot of good things. That Dragonshire is something to look at and try to build off of, because that was very impressive. But
the Dragonshire game still surprised me. It just, LFM did so well on that battleground, but it was like literally 2 minutes in. I'm like, how did this happen?
Well, let's ask Justin himself, because we've got him on the line. Hey, Justin, congratulations. You got a 3-1 victory there. I want to ask you about the Dragonshire game and where you think maybe that went wrong for you guys.
I think it was a mix of draft and also just poor execution on our part. It kind of felt like it was the warm-up game or something. Like we didn't really play right. So I don't know. It was just a bad game overall. We just weren't like mentally prepared for the match, I guess.
Well, the other 3 games, you guys looked awesome. You brought a lot of aggression and a lot of different picks too, like the Valera. Tell me a little bit about where you feel like the meta is right now. Do you feel like it's very wide and open, and you guys can bring in those kinds of strategies?
Yeah, I think the meta's really good right now. I think there's actually quite a few of different things that we can do. Like you did see the Valera. I think you're going to see a lot more weird things coming. Like in EU, we saw the Vikings and the Abathur. There's a lot of weird stuff, I think, and it's the first week, so it's probably more still coming.
Well, talking about it being the first week, you have probably a better viewpoint on this than we do just now seeing teams for the first time. Who do you feel like is showing themselves to be toward the top of North America? Is it the same teams? Do you feel like other teams are starting to put their hat in?
I think for the most part, it's going to be probably pretty similar to where we ended. I think Heroes Hearth is still at the top or near the top. I think we will probably be much better than we were in the previous phase. And Tempo Storm is probably going to be worse with the losing Psalm. But I think Freedom is really strong looking, and LFM might even do pretty well. So could DJ. It could be. I think the top 4 or top 5 is going to be really competitive and really close.
Well, that is awesome, and I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to seeing more from you guys too, but I will let Jay Howe ask you some questions now.
Justin, 4 games, 4 different warriors, 4 different strategies. So you said the meta is very diverse. Do you feel that sometimes you guys have too many strategies or not enough?
No, I don't. I don't think it's either of those things. I think we are not fixated on one specific strategy right now. We've made it very apparent in our practice, like very deliberate, that we play different strategies so that we're not crutching on 1 or 2 certain picks or strategies. So I'd say we're really diverse right now, and there should be more to come.
I was going to say, because you're coming out here against a team that in your interview you said you expected a 3-0, a team that probably might not be at that top 4 or 5 that you anticipate. You showed some very unique strategies. I mean, that's something we would maybe expect going into later series against some teams to throw them off. When you say there's more, how much more can we get? Because this is right out of the gate just showing quite a bit.
There's a lot more. I mean, I can't obviously like go into detail about anything specific, but I think a lot of the teams have a lot of strategies prepared, and we'll see it continue throughout this weekend. And a lot more weird things are probably coming. Mostly just I think because the patch has been fairly stagnant. Like the same heroes have been really powerful for quite a while, so people are trying to innovate and try new things to counter the standard really strong picks. So I think there's just a lot of experimenting going on, and some of it works.
Well, you've made it very known that you have high expectations for this roster and for your team in general, especially with the core of you, Buds, and Goku now being together for quite some time, bringing back a familiar face with Prismat. You have BlizzCon aspirations, but obviously looking towards the shorter term and going into Western Clash, trying to get that. Where do you see yourselves in the hierarchy right now? Do you see yourself at the top? You said the top 4 or 5 could be competitive. Do you see yourself at the top? Who's going to be the stiffest competition? And do you see yourself as the number 1 right now?
I would say Heroes Hearth is our stiffest competition for sure. I think they're a step beyond everyone else in NA, with the exception of ourselves. I think it will be us and Heroes Hearth at the top, at least for the short term. And yeah, we play them next week, so that'll be a really fun, interesting match.
Well, things worked out for you guys today. Good luck going forward, and congratulations on getting the wake-up call in Game 1 so you could come back with that 3-0 you were talking about.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, Justin, you guys have a really important week next week. When I talked to you earlier this week, you said that you're a lot more focused on that one. So what are you guys going to be doing to prepare for Tempo Storm and Heroes Hearth?
Well, since we have to face both of them in the same weekend, it's going to be a little bit tricky to prepare, but we're just going to refine our strategies we played this weekend and work on maybe some other ones. Going to try to get just as good of practice as we can without being able to practice against Heroes Hearth and Tempo Storm, so that'll be a bit of an issue, but we'll just try our best to work around that and and just keep working on what we've been doing.
Well, maybe
Should be good.
maybe the next match can give you an indication of how Heroes Hearth is playing. They're going to be up against Freedom. Quickly, what are you predicting from that match?
I think if one team just completely smashes the first game, that team might go on to just 3-0 or 3-1.
Okay.
But I think if the first game is pretty close, it will be a pretty close series because both of those teams are really good and both have some unique strategies.
In that case, I will be hoping for the latter then. Thank you so much, Justin. And if you have any shout-outs, now is the time.
Thanks. Shout-outs to all the fans who supported us through our transition from Team 12 to Team Octalysis. Shout-outs to our sponsor, which is Octalysis, Yukai Chow. It's like a very interesting thing. You guys should check it out. It's gamification. It's like a way to make things more like video games, like real life things. It's pretty interesting. You guys should check it out. So just shout outs to the fans and to our sponsor.
Cool. Thank you very much. Congrats again.
Thanks.
I like more games.
I like more games too.
We get more games even today too.
I like that. Those
Yeah.
jerseys, by the way, that's
Pretty
my first look at them.
Mm-hmm.
I like them.
Yeah.
They're up there. I think the color scheme for me, that's what.
JL likes every jersey. We need to get JL.
I got that
he can just switch
really.
them out.
Hold
I'm
on.
also an Octalysis fan and an Endemic
But let's
fan.
talk about the one jersey that matters. That Alliance jersey I got this past week. Boy, that looked good. That looked amazing.
Woof. We're going to go to a break, but don't go anywhere because Freedom versus Heroes Hearth, you're not going to miss that one. We'll see you soon after the break. The rest of his team.
Again, you can't stack on this because once he hits his